Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the unsigned Hockey channel. In this video, we're going to be discussing a few more trades, as Jesse Puljujarvi is finally out of Edmonton, Marcus Johansson has found a new home in Minnesota, and Riley Stillman has been shipped off to Buffalo. We'll get to all the details coming up right now. Hello and welcome to another video here at the unsigned Hockey channel. In this video, we're going to be discussing a few things, starting with Jesse Puljujarvi. Now, there's been a lot of speculation recently that Puljujarvi was going to be traded. The Oilers were trying to find a new home for him. The former 4th overall pick has just not really worked out with Edmonton. He had a really great season last year, putting up 36 points in 65 games. Looked like he might turn it around, but this year he just hasn't really worked out. He's been more of a bomb 6 forward, only putting up 14 points in 58 games, and he has finally been dealt. The lucky team to get him is the Carolina Hurricanes, as the Hurricanes get Puljujarvi from the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for unsigned prospect Patrick Puistola. Now, for the Canes, this is a really good addition. We know that they have a lot of cap flexibility right now, given the fact that Pacioretty is on injury reserve. And I would expect this is not the only move that the Canes would make before the deadline, but this is a really good move. We know that the Hurricanes have a lot of Finnish players, with guys like Sebastian Aho and Teuvo Teravainen, and a couple of others as well. So a lot of their players are Finnish, and they like having Finnish players on their roster. So Puljujarvi is as well Finnish, so I think he should be able to do really good there. Maybe he gets some third-line minutes. Maybe they put him in the top 6 and see if he can do well with some of their other players. I know they need some more scoring depth, and Puljujarvi did well last year, playing with guys like McDavid and Draisaitl. This year he hasn't done as good, so hopefully the change of scenery will help Puljujarvi refine his game from last year. I think he's still a good forward, probably top 9 forward if he can find his game. So I think that the move to Carolina should help him out. He's going to be a restricted free agent at the end of the year with arbitration rights. He has a $3 million cap hit, so it's quite possible that if things don't work out, the Canes just don't qualify him, and Puljujarvi will go as an unrestricted free agent to free agency. But maybe it works out, and the Canes can work out maybe like a short-term deal that's like a little bit less money than $3 million, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think the move to Carolina for Puljujarvi will be good. There's a lot of fellow countrymen there from Finland, so I think that should work in his favor. And if he can get some good minutes playing with some really good players, I think he could definitely find his point total from last year. So good to see Puljujarvi get moved. In return, the Edmonton Oilers get Patrick Puistola. Puistola hasn't even signed his NHL contract yet. He was a 2019 third-round pick of the Carolina Hurricanes. Has been playing in Liga up to this point. Had played 56 games last year, had 24 points, looked really good. He's had a much better season this year, putting up 38 points in 56 games in Liga. So I think it's possible that the Oilers do wind up signing him to an entry-level contract and he turns pro, but his rights do expire on June 1st, at which point he'll become an unrestricted free agent. So it's not guaranteed that Puistola will sign with the Oilers. So it's quite possible they just gave up Puljujarvi for free. But they don't have to give up anything to get Puljujarvi. They do get a possible young player who could eventually maybe play for them in the AHL or the NHL. It's possible, but it's not guaranteed. So I really like this move. I think it's really hard to see who the winner is. I think Edmonton really wanted to move on from Puljujarvi and get the cap space, so they're a winner in that sense. But if Puljujarvi can fit in really well with the Canes and have sort of the season he did last year with Carolina, I think the Canes could also win this deal. So I think the play of Puljujarvi will really determine who wins this deal, but I think it's a good move. Puljujarvi finally gets moved. I think it's a great place for him in Carolina, and the Oilers don't have to give up anything to make the trade work. Next, with the Minnesota Wild, we know that they've been looking at trying to acquire another top 9 forward. I'm not exactly sure if this will be the only move they make, but they do get some more offensive depth, as they do pick up Marcus Johansson from the Washington Capitals in exchange for a 2024 third-round pick. And I think this is a pretty good deal. Johansson only making $1.1 million this year. He's having a heck of a season. He had 29 points in 69 games last year, having 28 points in 60 games this year, so he keeps on hovering around the 30-point mark, which is a pretty good total for like a third line forward, and I think that Johansson should be doing really good with Minnesota. Not exactly sure if he'll be playing consistent minutes, but I think he's easily a fourth third line forward who can put up some points. There's some talk that the Wild might be trying to move Jordan Greenway. There's also some talk that the Wild are still trying to acquire another forward. So there's a possibility of the Wild making another move or two, but I think given the fact that they really needed some offensive depth, this does help them. Johansson's on the last year of his contract. He's a pending unrestricted free agent. So given the fact that the Wild also have some really big cap problems coming up, I wouldn't expect him to really re-sign with the team, but we'll have to wait and see. I definitely think that the addition of Johansson to Minnesota is going to be absolutely great for the Wild, and it does give them a little bit more depth, the offensive group. And if this is the only move that they make, I do think it'll help them at least a little bit. As for the Capitals, we know that they've been moving some of their pending unrestricted free agents. They moved Orlov and Hathaway to Boston. They recently moved Gustafsson to Toronto for Sandin. So they're moving a lot of their pending unrestricted free agents. I'd be watching guys like Trevor Van Riemsdyk, Connor Sheary, and Lars Eller now, as those are probably some of their more significant unrestricted free agents that are left on that team. I think a third-round pick in 2024 is pretty good. We know that they traded next year's second-round pick to Ottawa for Connor Brown, but since then they have acquired 2 third-round picks in this one and the Boston Bruins one, so now they have 4 picks in the first 3 rounds of next year's draft, so pretty good for the Capitals trying to get some draft capital. We know they're not trying to rebuild, they're trying to retool on the fly, so they could possibly use those picks in the offseason or next year's trade deadline to maybe get some more good players so they can go for another run. We know that the Caps really want to try and make as many playoff runs as they can with Alex Ovechkin, so I don't think this is too much of a surprise with the Caps throwing in the towel this year and trying to move as many of their pending unrestricted free agents as they can. But definitely a good deal. Wild gets some more scoring depth, and in return, the Capitals get a good third-round pick for next year's draft. So definitely a good deal for both sides. Johansson probably wasn't re-signing with the Capitals, and the Wild needed some scoring depth. So pretty good move from both sides. I would say that Capitals probably win this deal. I'm not sure if Johansson's really worth a third-round pick, but I think if they can hit home on that third-round pick and Johansson leaves via free agency, as I probably do expect for the Wild, I think that the Caps will probably win this deal. But getting some good scoring depth is never bad, and I think that the Wild will definitely like the addition of Johansson to the lineup. And lastly here, a trade that happened last night as Riley Stillman was moved by the Vancouver Canucks to the Buffalo Sabres in exchange for Josh Bloom. Now this is a really good deal as well. We know that the Sabres could be small adders at the deadline, maybe looking for like a cheap third-line center to try and improve their face-offs. We know that they're close to being a playoff team, and they could be this year, but they're not at the point where they're trying to sell off assets to get really big players. So I don't think they're really moving anyone significant. But I do believe that getting some more defensive insurance is good. Stillman signed for this year and next year at $1.35 million. He was acquired just before the season started by Vancouver from Chicago for Jason Dickinson. So I think it's a pretty good move by the Sabres to get some defensive depth. We know this year they've run into a lot of injuries with Henri Jokiharju, Rasmus Dahlin, Matthias Samuelsson all missing time due to injuries. So it's not too surprising, in my opinion, that they go out and get some defensive help. He signed for this year and next year, so a couple of seasons. So he'll be on the roster for the rest of this year plus next season. And I think he should be a really good addition. He can play good third-pair minutes for any team, so I expect him to probably be a third-pair defenseman for Buffalo, especially with Rasmus Dahlin out. And I expect this to be a really good low-key addition for Buffalo. Not sure if it's the only addition they'll make this week, but definitely going to be interesting to see how Stillman fits in Buffalo. For the Canucks, you know, they're trying to clear as much cap space as they can. They moved Schenn earlier today. They moved Stillman yesterday, so they've already cleared like $2.1 million off the cap. So really going to be interesting to see what they do with that newfound cap space. In return, they get Josh Bloom, who is a 2021 third-round pick, so he's still playing in juniors, but he's definitely done really well. Last year he had a great season, putting up 61 points in 67 games. This year he's done a little bit better, putting up 58 points in 59 games, so Bloom looks to be a possible, maybe third-line forward in a couple of years' time at the NHL level, so I think Bloom in the Canucks organization could get a chance in a couple of years' time. He's still going to have to finish this year in juniors and then probably play a couple of AHL seasons before he gets an NHL shot, but I think this is a really good addition for Vancouver, and I could see Bloom eventually make a run at an NHL spot, so good addition for Vancouver to get a good young prospect who could be an NHL forward in a couple of years' time. And for the Sabres, they get a good defenseman who can help them if they're into some more injury trouble. So good move for both sides. I think in this deal, I'll probably say a Canucks won because I think that they could possibly get a good young player in this deal. But if Stillman does really well with Buffalo, I think Buffalo could easily win this deal. I think this is a win-win basically for both teams. Canucks get some cap space and good young prospect. Sabres get some defensive help just in case they run into more injuries. So good move for both sides. I will let you know what you think down in the comments about the Stillman to Buffalo, Johansson to Minnesota, and Puljujarvi to Carolina deals. I think that all these 3 deals are good. Puljujarvi will help Carolina's offense. Minnesota will get a little bit more offensive depth with Johansson, and Vancouver gets a little bit more cap space. but they do get a good prospect. So that's all I'm going to talk about in this video here today. Remember to like this video and subscribe. I also do a blog, which I'll leave a link to in the description below. Remember to check out the Trade Deadline Live blog on Friday, as I'll be doing a live blog discussing all of the moves that happened on trade deadline day. And also keep up to date on my latest videos, as I'll probably make another couple videos either later tonight or maybe tomorrow morning discussing some more deals. It does sound like the Patrick Kane deal could be finalized soon. It does sound like Matthias Ekholm might be being traded to the Nashville Predators. There's a couple of other possible deals that could be going down later tonight, so definitely keep up to date, and I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.